So I'm going to go over 5 ways to improve your website speed, which as a result will improve your revenues. You see, websites should be under 3 seconds. Now, if you look at the big e-commerce giant Amazon, they're always pushing for faster website speed. And half of visitors are lost on website speed alone. So just think about that. Half of the people coming to your website will go somewhere else. They'll disappear. They'll close the window. They'll go and Google something else. They'll browse something else. So what does that tell you? Well, that tells you that your page load should be incredible. Okay? Because if you have a website, you're perhaps selling something, whether it's readership or products or whatnot. You're trying to get something out of the visitor that's coming to your website. That should be your end goal. I mean, that's the whole point of marketing, is to get some sort of behavior or action out of your customer when you kind of break it all down to the brass tacks of everything. So you have to look at your visitors and say, okay, are they getting a very fast load time? Now, for me, I was obsessed with this. I was paid to handle this for a marketing company. I was literally paid to just improve the website speed because we realized that we were losing business due to the fact that the website was slow. So I literally spent months just optimizing and improving little different things just to make the website faster. So let's go over 5 different ways to improve your website speed, and as a result, your revenues, the most important thing. Now, for me, on my personal website, I use the Astra theme. I'm not affiliated with anything that I'm mentioning here because, well, it's a free theme. Doesn't cost anything. But what I determined, so I did a bunch of research, and I wanted the fastest website theme. Now I'm using WordPress. I'm obsessed with WordPress. I've used it for over 10 years. But WordPress has this theme called Astra. Now, it's made by independent developers, and it's one of the fastest. It's a very lightweight theme. Gives you enough customization and enough support so that you can do pretty much anything that you want on the website. And it's one of the fastest, if not the fastest, in the world through WordPress. Unless you want to go into full-on customization and cut down on the code and make it super lightweight, honestly, right out of the box, this Astra theme, A-S-T-R-A, it's literally much faster. It's actually faster than any of the WordPress teams' templates. So keep that in mind, is that the company that's created this website builder platform, they don't even have themes that are as fast as this one. So when I switched just from like a basic theme to this Astra theme, which is again free, I noticed my speed go from like a 70 out of 100 to like 90 out of 100, just this like one switch. And it's because it's such a lightweight theme. Now, if you're watching this many years down the road, who knows? Astra might change, they might make it more complicated, and then it might slow things down. And then you'll have to look at another theme. But okay, what am I getting at here? For this first point is to choose a theme that's very lightweight, okay? Do the research, find one that's lightweight, actually figure out what the page load times are, because this is honestly going to save you a lot of time down the road in terms of developing something that's complicated. I've seen convoluted WordPress themes that people put a lot of time and effort into. It's completely customized, the code and everything. I've worked with agencies and we'd spend $20,000 to $30,000 creating a custom theme. And what would happen is it would start to slow down as WordPress updated, as the internet updated. It just couldn't handle things. So I'm sort of against hard coding unless you really know what you're doing. So I would choose a theme that's lightweight, and that should definitely help. And if you can hard code something and make it lightweight, great, do that too. But your theme is critical, okay? So if you're on WordPress, change your theme, make it faster. That's step one. Use Astra, or use one that someone has said on a blog that's super fast. Test it out, because that's going to save you. It's going to save you money. It's going to give you money. So take some time and really look at that. Next one, now I'm basing all of the page speed stats on Google PageSpeed. Okay, you can find Google PageSpeed, type in Google PageSpeed, you can test out your website, find out how fast it is. I base it all on that, because Google kind of owns rankings and SEO, and your speed is going to affect your SEO. So you want it fast, not just for desktop, but also for mobile use on your phone. So it should be fast for both. That's what I'm kind of basing all my stats on. Of course, there are other tools. There's Pingdom tools. There's a bunch of different places where you can measure your speed. And it's all free to measure it. So don't go spending a bunch of money to measure your website speed. It doesn't cost anything. Google PageSpeed, when you do the test, will show you likely number 2 here that I'm going to talk about, image compression. Most images are uncompressed, they're big. If a photographer took the photo, then it could be 2 to 3 megabytes in size, could be 5 megabytes. It could be a massive file, and your website has to load that. So what I would typically do is compress the images. And you can do that through a free tool called TinyPNG, or you could do TinyJPG if it's a JPEG. I like PNG images, but things are changing. Different file types are faster now for the internet, but Google will kind of recommend the options. But anyway, at the very least, you could take your images, compress them. You can compress them through these compression tools online, okay? Don't have to download or install anything. Just go to them, upload the images, and they'll compress for you. You could definitely increase your website speed just with this one tip alone. It's super simple. You just compress your images, or remove the images from your website and cut it down. Okay, number 3, server improvements. So this one is kind of, I'm not super techy. I know some technical things, but, when it comes to like MySQL databases, I would need to go to IT to figure all this stuff out. It's kind of beyond me, and I'm okay with admitting that. So what I would do for server improvements, because that's another thing that will come up on Google PageSpeed, is your server speed isn't fast enough. Well, you can improve this very quickly by contacting your website host. Okay, so maybe you have Bluehost, or you're running it on HostGator or GoDaddy's hosting, or whichever host platform. Contact your hosting provider, ask them to clean the MySQL database. Make sure that they're not damaging anything on your website, otherwise things get broken. But start by asking, hey, you can go to the chat function and ask the website host. They'll do this all for free because you're paying a monthly plan anyways. Get your server improved by, cleaning the database, checking for any other flaws, right? Some websites have been running for decades now. I mean, it's crazy how many years websites have been running and they haven't really been cleaned, they haven't really been optimized or updated for the modern web, because there's constant updates. So you can contact your host provider for the website, and they can improve the server on their end, okay? That could literally improve your server speed. Now, if you understand how to improve the server speed, maybe you can go in and play around with this yourself. Okay, great. Then this is all beyond, this video is not really for you anyway. I mean, you're already way more technically advanced, and all of this stuff you probably will already know when I'm telling you this. So then you would maybe go in and clean the server yourself. If you can do that, great. I think anytime I've tried to do something like that, I've broken the website. So I know that that's not my skill set, and I stay away from that. I'm more in the marketing end, or trying to increase sales or get more sales through marketing activities. So that's what I try to stay with. But of course, this stuff kind of overlaps, so it helps to understand some of this technical. Okay, number 4, minify the code. Okay, so you have HTML, CSS, all this code that either your template is built out of, or you've added code maybe. Maybe you've tried to make your text red on your website, and you've added some lines of CSS that could maybe help with that. When you're adding all of this code, things start to slow down, or the website has to understand what you're trying to tell it. You're trying to direct it with all this code. So you can minify the code by maybe trying to do things that are built through the theme instead of adding your own code. There's ways to actually copy paste if you can. This is a challenging one, but if you understand how to copy paste the code, you can maybe copy it, paste it into a code minifier, and it will shrink the code down for you, make it very succinct, very complex though. It'll be a string of all these little characters that will be very difficult to understand. But I tried that once, and it literally took all my code. It was hundreds and hundreds of lines of code, and it just turned it into a couple dozen lines. And I'm like, wow, this is crazy how it can just do all of this, can understand it. This is another point. It's kind of dangerous to minify the code because it could break the website somehow. So you could use a plugin, although I don't recommend it because the plugin will actually slow your website down, possibly. You have to kind of be careful. So a plugin, again, we're talking about WordPress plugins here. But yes, you could minify the code. If it's a hard-coded website, this actually is a good approach, is to perhaps minify the code. Or remove code that is not needed. This is a little bit more technical, but again, you could get an IT person to come in and do some cleaning up. Hopefully that they don't break it. Number 5, the last one. Follow Google PageSpeed's list of suggestions. Okay, so they're going to give you more suggestions beyond what I've just mentioned. Okay, they'll talk about image compression. They'll talk about server improvements. They'll give you a bunch of different things that you can kind of check off. It'll give you a little checklist. Talk about maybe JavaScript, slowing things down. It'll tell you what you need to do. And you could screenshot all this information that Google PageSpeed is telling you, and you can solve it yourself, or you could pass it off to an IT person, and they will address it. And if they can't address it, go find someone who can. Because you can get your page speed up at least to a 90 and above. And it's not too complicated. If you just do these 5 things, I guarantee you'll improve your website speed. I guarantee you will see an increase in your sales. Guaranteed. So those are the main 5, but I want to give you some bonus ones. These are more controversial, okay? Not something necessary, but maybe you want to take it to the next level. Well, this is what I noticed. Don't use embeds. Okay, this is number 1. Do not use any embedding. Okay, number 1, which is of the controversial section. Don't use any embedding. Where you have your YouTube video embedded on your website, or other weird embedding. Okay, because perhaps your website will have to pull this code out to embed it, and actually will slow things down. This is really digging deep, but I'm still going to throw it out there. When I removed my embeds, I noticed a jump in page speed because, this is less code. So instead, my suggestion is that you link out. So you add a hyperlink to text Like, here's a big video, or you add like a button, like a coded button, which doesn't take up as much coding. So you can link out to whatever it is. That's what I would suggest. Again, controversial, because embedding obviously looks pretty and keeps people on your website, which is good. Maybe if you have like a home page and then have like a secondary page leading to the embed, then that kind of covers it. But we're basically trying to remove embeds from main page loads. Okay, your top page loads should probably have like no embedding. Again, controversial section. Not everyone's going to agree. Not everyone's going to agree with any of what I've said. But again, it's like testing and experimenting to get that next level of your website. Okay, number 2, don't use plugins, because literally most of the plugins that I've ever used will slow the website down. Even when they say they don't slow the website down, they end up getting updates down the road and adding more things that kind of mess with the website. So you remove any of the plugins that you don't need, because slowing down the site is really not necessary. Honestly, most of the websites I've ever built, like I have maybe like at most 5-6 plugins installed, and when I go in to like update websites, I'll notice like some of these websites will have like 20 plugins and they're not getting used. They're not even properly activated or configured, and they're just kind of sitting there and slowing things down. So don't get too obsessed with adding on different functions, right? Because what's more important? Having the page load, or having a bunch of useless things that aren't really contributing to your main goal? So kind of have a look, remove the plugins you don't need. Number 3 in this controversial section is to skip Google Analytics. This is really controversial, but you really don't need to analyze your stats every day. But, the most important metric is kind of like sales. There are other things that you can figure out through your website. You don't necessarily need Google Analytics installed. It will slow the site down, but not by much. Okay, this one's a really picky one. To be honest, I'd almost ignore this, but every time you do Google PageSpeed, ironically, they suggest that you don't have Google Analytics installed. This is the most bizarre thing. I don't understand it, because it's all Google. Like, this Google suggesting that you don't have something that's important that they made. This one's kind of hit and miss. I'd say for a more bona fide website, probably having analytics is of value. It has more value than not having it in there. So, but if you're starting out, maybe you're a small business, you really don't need to get too obsessed with analytics. You need to get more obsessed with driving traffic and marketing and having things work properly. That's your more important thing if you're getting started. I mean, these are all important, especially if you're running like an e-commerce business. Then it becomes even more critical that you have things running effectively. If you're not running an e-commerce business, you can probably get away with not obsessing over these things. So, okay, those are my 5, and then the bonus 3, because, I'm just so nice, and I just thought I'd add a bunch of additional things to improve website speed. You may not agree with them, you may, but again, I'm just sharing what I've kind of learned along the way, and all the best in your optimization efforts. Till next time, bye.